I just saw this great video by another content creator, Who's the Boss, and he made a DIY growth ruler. And I thought this is a perfect project for me before Jackson starts growing too much. I'll be able to track his height throughout the years. I've got some scrap wood kicking around. I get to make a jig or two, and I get to put my router to use. So there really isn't a better project for a rainy Saturday afternoon.
I'd mentioned a router jig, and that's what's up first. This is going to help me make perpendicular cuts when I'm making each one of the individual graduations for the rule. I'm going to start by cutting some scrap down into 4 pieces, and then I'll put a piece on the left and right side of the router so it's bound and can only slide back and forth.
Little pro tip for you guys, if you leave your glue bottle open like I just did, old dental picks make the perfect tool for cleaning the tip of these out. So either ask your dentist or buy some online, because I got a couple of broken ones here that just do the perfect job.
For its construction, I'm going to use a little bit of wood glue and then some brad nails. And since I'm not going to wait for this glue to dry, I am going to use a few extra brad nails and hope everything just stays in alignment. Time for a little test cut. I'm going to try this 1/4 inch flat bit first and see how I like the profile. Since this is my first cut with this setup, I'm taking it nice and slow to make sure I don't feel any binding in the jig, and just that I'm happy with how my hose is routed and the whole setup, since I'm going to be using this a fair amount to cut all of the individual graduations.
All right, next I'm going to try this 60-degree surface forming bit and see if I like that profile a little better. So after a couple of test cuts, I think the narrower and narrower I get, the more obvious it is that my fixture isn't perfect. It's not too bad on this depth with the 60-degree bit, but I think I like the look of the 1/4 inch straight bit the best. So that's probably what I'm going to go with.
All right, so for the growth height stick itself, I'm using a 1 inch by 4 inch by 8 foot long piece of pine, and it is time to transfer where I'm going to be putting the graduation marks on. So let's rip through that. With all the lines marked, it is time to cut the graduations. So this definitely isn't a production setup, but it worked well for doing one of these. If you're looking to do a project like this and you don't have a router, well, you can always get a piece of pine like this or a piece of wood like this and finish it. And then there are all sorts of decals that you could buy online as well. And that would be a great way to tackle this project if you wanted to as well. But since I've got the tools and I need to practice, I figured why not? So with all the graduations cut, it's time to put the router to work again, and we're going to soften the edges with just a little 45-degree chamfer. Alright, last step before finishing is going to be a little bit of sanding. This did start out as a rainy Saturday project, but we've spilled over into day 2, which is good because it is actually nice out and I can do the painting.
So like I said before, part of the reason I like these projects is it gives me an opportunity to test and learn new skills. So painting is now a part of that. So I don't do a ton of painting. It should be pretty straightforward, but I just picked up this black crafter's paint. It says it's a good all-purpose for wood, arts, canvas, clays, plaster, metal, fabric, blah, blah, blah. So it should be perfect for something like this. I am just gonna brush it in the grads. You know, I find kind of this stuff a little zen, and we're just gonna work our way down.
For the numbers, I opted to keep it simple, and I picked up some vinyl letters to mark each foot.
So my wife and I have picked a mounting location, which is going to be just above a piece of baseboard. So I've got a scrap piece of baseboard. I'm gonna make a line, and then we're gonna cut this to size. That way, this sits just above the baseboard and it will be accurate on the wall.
Now Jackson is closing in on a year old, but fortunately we've got a good record of all of his heights from his doctor's appointments, so I'm going to be penciling them in before I put this up on the wall.
So for mounting, I'm going to be using some Velcro command strips. These are great because I can get this off the wall and then I can use little pull tabs if I need to. All right. All set. Can't wait to try it out with Jackson in front of it. This was a great little project. I really enjoyed making something personal for our home, particularly something that we're going to continue to use for a long time. And it was just kind of another one of those great woodworking learning experiences. It's not super complicated, but it was fun to work out how to make the little router sled and then get just kind of a repeatable, clean profile all the way up the stick. So I was very happy with the result, and I think that might translate into some other woodworking activities I've got in the future, so stick around and we'll have some other small projects that might utilize that router sled again. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one, guys.
Look! See how tall you are. Come here. Ah. How tall are we? Do you like it? Yeah. Yeah. We'll keep measuring, huh?